Right when you think the Blue Jackets could be coming back home with a little bit of momentum after a big road win, they shoo it all away with a poor effort. We'll talk about it today on Locked On Blue Jackets.
You're Locked On Blue Jackets, your daily podcast on the Columbus Blue Jackets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Blue Jackets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Hayden Heilshorn. Not with me today. Back with me during the week will be my co-host, Jay Foster. I'm here to talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly of your favorite team and ours, the Columbus Blue Jackets. Before I get going, I want to say thank you to the Everydayer for making this your first listen every day. Locked On Blue Jackets is free and available on all podcast platforms. We're free here on YouTube. Hit subscribe if you're watching there. We're also free on the SiriusXM app. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Oh boy, right when you thought the Blue Jackets left Toronto with a little bit of momentum, with a little bit of belief that they can finish the 2023 calendar year off the right way, they have a chance to play a team that they've already beaten this year. They beat the Devils just a few weeks back on Black Friday. And maybe that contributed to why I thought the Devils played with a little bit better effort tonight, or why we just maybe have seen a better New Jersey Devils than what we've seen watching them throughout the rest of the season. Because even though they were second in the Metro last year, they haven't really had the rock solid start to this season that I think people thought that they would have. That being said, I still think that they're a very good team that can just take off at any moment, and definitely a team worth eyeing a potential future bet on, because you just look at the speed that they have between the Hughes brothers, Jack Hughes and Luke Hughes, and then throwing like Tyler Toffoli in the mix, and they're pretty ridiculous. They're a pretty fun team to watch. And Nico Hischier, he's really solid as well. And they just got studs all up and down the lineup, and they're a tough team. And I no way expected the Jackets to get a win. I rarely do expect the Blue Jackets to get a win in any game, but dang, I thought they had a little bit of something going into tonight. Now, I know Patrik Laine being out with a fractured clavicle is tough, because, again, that's a dude who has been put in a situation twice this year where he has had to, at near the end of games too. I know this one took place in the second period, but just, I guess, in good games where the Jackets are playing well and the team's starting to play good, Patrik Laine gets hurt. This time it's a slew foot from William Legason for the Toronto Maple Leafs, excuse me. And I don't know I don't know much about that player, but the slew foot seems pretty accidental. I could sit here and get fired up about it, but yeah, that was a play that happened in the Toronto Maple Leafs game. Almost forgot to cover that in the last episode we did talking about that game. So you didn't have Patrik Laine going into this game, and I stand on the fact that I think the Blue Jackets play better when he's in the lineup. So off the bat, not really feeling great about this one. Reminding myself that the Devils beat the the Devils lost to the Blue Jackets 2-1 on Black Friday. So a chance to, kind of prove themselves. Like they definitely remember that, right? Like that was, short enough in their memory to where they can pull from that one and get fired up. And I thought they came out hot. Obviously, that turnover from Johnny Gaudreau landed right in Tyler Toffoli's lap. That dude was on one tonight. Absolutely. He gets the first star for the New Jersey Devils, I think, in my opinion. What did he end up with? 3 points tonight? And the first one he got may have been his best one, because he picks it off from Johnny Gaudreau not even a minute into the game, gives it up to Jack Hughes. He just makes a ridiculous move on Danil Tarasov, who, another factor, the Blue Jackets were playing a goalie that hadn't seen any action in 9 months. So it had been a while since the Blue Jackets had Daniil Tarasov out there, and it had been a while since he'd just seen live bullets. So for him to be going up against the New Jersey Devils, not fun for him. You never want to be going up against the Devils after 9 months of sitting out, doing nothing. Not that he was doing nothing. He was recovering from a knee injury, but I think it was just the meeting of two wild trains, really. And one of them being is the Devils knew they weren't going to give up points in this game, and the Blue Jackets were trying to get Daniil Tarasov back in the mix. I don't want to blame Pascal Vincent. Like, maybe you could have found a better game, because even though the Devils are, after this one, probably, where are they sitting in the standings? I know the Blue Jackets are 8th in the Metro. The Penguins are 7th. The Capitals are 6th, who the Blue Jackets have coming up. The Devils are 5th in the Metro right now at 16-11-1. So they're having a pretty good season with that record, actually, 16-11-1. And they're only sitting 5th place in the Metro. So that just shows how deep this division is, and nothing shows how deep this Metro division is. Like, just looking at the Blue Jackets' record against the Metropolitan opponents at home this year, 1-4, if you want to know. 1-4, the Blue Jackets against their own division on their home ice this year. So that's not going to get it done. That's going to find you at 8th place in the standings. But I guess that helps me put things into perspective. Like, this team's pretty good. Like, the Blue Jackets are competitive, I think, in any other division out there. Competitive, not in a playoff spot or anything, but they would be playing better if they played in any other division. There's no doubt about that, because this team's fun to watch. They're actually really enjoyable to watch. I think everybody would agree. Most of that Maple Leafs game the other night was really enjoyable to watch. This one, not so much, obviously. And I just think it's because when the Blue Jackets get down early in a game, they're not really a team that's built to make a comeback. They should be, because they are a team of young, big speed. But I think their coach is honestly holding them back from really making a comeback. And it's not really his fault either, because Pascal Vincent is trying to do his best to put his team in a situation to come back, but he's overdoing it. Because moving Line A to the 4th line in that third period to play with Olivier and Corrali, not a good move. Not really a good move. And I think national media members were having a little comment about that one. I think Aaron Portzline threw the tweet out there talking about Adam Fantilli's line minutes tonight, because they dropped significantly, I guess, going into the third period. And so that's not good. That's not good, because Adam Fantilli has definitely been the most consistent forward, I think, this year. I think I want to say that. I think I want to say the most, other than Boone Jenner. Boone Jenner's been a very great player, obviously, on the score sheet. But in terms of everything that I want to see out of a forward, I think Adam Fantilli has definitely been in your top 3, top 5, and does not need to be playing on the 4th line. I understand that the Blue Jackets find themselves in a 5-2 game in the third period, and it's kind of like, let's do whatever we can to try to generate some offense and get back in this one. But I think sometimes you just got to let the boys play. You got to let your best players just play and just try to figure it out themselves. I kind of really like what Jay's been saying recently on this podcast when talking about this team's problems. Like, the only way out is through, So, and look what the Leafs did to you. The Leafs just kept all their guys, and they didn't change anything up for that third period. Goals just happen naturally. Like hockey, I think sometimes you get in this thing like, oh, it's we can't score. You forget that, like, how quickly goals are scored. Like, you can score 3 goals in 90 seconds, and that's a very kind of normal thing to happen in the NHL. I'm sure there's some stat out there that says that that doesn't ever happen, but I can tell you that has happened before, and goals can avalanche. And I think Columbus really won't figure that out until they get the same guys playing time over and over again, get the same consistent line mates. Like, there's a reason why your best line is an all Russian line. It's because those are the guys that you trust to play together. They've been playing together now, and they continue to score and to grow together as players. Like, why can't we get the same thing from day one? Like, we're still trying to mix and match lines. I just feel like it's kind of too late for that, especially in the third period of a game at home against a Metro team. Like, your team should be confident that you can come back and win this game, not be making crazy lineup changes mid-game just to try to scratch and claw your way back. I don't really think that's the move. And again, I don't know. I hopefully that's just Pascal Vincent like on board with tanking or something, because I would have just kept the same lines the whole game, just kept the same lines, kept Fantilli playing at the top, and saw what came out of that. Because yeah, that's your best player right there, to be honest, and he needs to be on the ice more often than he is. All right, we're gonna take a pause. A couple other things I want to talk about from this game, and maybe a few more positive things even. We'll do that all next on Locked On Blue Jackets. Next, I want to tell you guys about Gametime. Have you ever been frustrated? Excuse me. Have you ever been frustrated when you're trying to buy a ticket to a game or a concert or a comedy show or any sort of theater or / event near you? Well, guess what? Give up all those old apps that you've been using, because Gametime has killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and the best price guaranteed. It really takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. Gametime is something that made me get off my rear end, get off my couch, and take my wife out to a concert, a game, and a theater event. I've taken her to all three things in the last 6 months since I've been using the Gametime app. It's a fun app to just browse on and just go through upcoming events in my area and just look at all the last minute tickets, flash deals, zone deals. It's an easy way to find and buy tickets for all kinds of events in your area. You get views from your seat, lowest price guaranteed, event cancellation protection. So it's really great. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with the Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. All right, definitely a lot more I want to get into in this Blue Jackets loss, because I think the answer is right in front of you. This team needs to find a way to build better chemistry, because when I see teams like the New Jersey Devils and I see teams like the Toronto Maple Leafs, who the Blue Jackets are able to get the best of, because the Blue Jackets are a good team. I think pound for pound, the Blue Jackets can play with any team in this league outside of the top 5 teams. Really, I think the Blue Jackets should be able to be a team like the New Jersey Devils, who is filled with good players, good fast players that are playing at the top of their game right now. But I think Columbus has a lot of those guys too when you look across the board at their Russian players, at their Michigan players. Like, there's a lot of good talent on the ice for Columbus, and there's just no excuse for them to be getting behind in these games and giving up leads like they've been doing in the past, because again, as I alluded to, the Blue Jackets are not a team that is built to come back from behind. They're not even a team that's built to protect the lead either. So I don't really know what you do. But bottom line is, one thing I've noticed this year for the Blue Jackets is their inability to create good passes in the O-zone. Because when they do create good passes in the O-zone, it leads to goals the way that they should. Look at the first goal that the Blue Jackets scored tonight, a pass off the boards to Kirill Marchenko, quick shot and in. Look at the last goal the Blue Jackets scored. Adam Fantilli, off wing, finds Alexander Texier. He rips a shot. It's just like, why aren't the Blue Jackets able to create good offensive passes and just look like a team that, I don't know, maybe look like a team that plays hockey together every single day? Like, the Blue Jackets don't look like that. They look like they are permanently stuck in day one in opening night mode against the Philadelphia Flyers. And that's just hair pulling, as I've alluded to. Again, that was as we have alluded to, Jay and I both on this podcast multiple times, is that the Columbus Blue Jackets are one of the most frustrating teams to watch because they're so talented and they're scoring goals in these games. They're not getting blown out. Like, their plus minus, team plus minus on the year is not that bad. And it's just ridiculous that they just can't find a way to beat a Metro team at home. Like, they haven't beaten a Metro team at home since October 14th when they beat the Rangers. And in fact, that might be the last win against a Metro team was the Black Friday against the Devils, but already that has kind of, you forget what that feels like because the Devils just beat you tonight. Good news is the Blue Jackets, they don't have the toughest schedule ahead of them. They got the Sabres on the road. They actually have a few days off here, which I think the Blue Jackets have consistently played better after a few days rest. It's kind of one of the only things they have been good at, is like the Blue Jackets don't really seem tired often. They do seem tired from time to time. They seem tired at moments tonight for sure, i.e. Blankenberg just straight up falling asleep on Toffoli's goal there in the second period. That was a big moment in the game, a back-breaking moment in the game, because Marchenko gets the goal to make the game 2-1, and you're right back in it at 2-1. Obviously, it's a close game, second period, and you kind of watch Blankenberg just get tripped up, and he's kind of in the same area as a couple refs standing over there by the boards, and you think, did the refs trip him up here? This stinks. Like, I mean, that's really unfortunate. But then you see the replay from the other camera, and Blankenberg just appears to just slip at mid-ice, and it leads to a goal the other way. Can't really explain that one. I don't know how to explain that one. And then there was a power play goal that happened later in the game too, where Provorov's just standing, just kind of watching. I think he was kind of well aware that Jack Hughes, he wasn't aware, excuse me. I don't think he was aware that Jack Hughes could potentially score a goal from that side of the ice, because Provorov, I believe, was supposed to cover that part of the Devils' little power play formation, and Provorov didn't make any move to go cover Jack Hughes on that fourth goal, which ended the game. Really, is when it was 4-2 at that point. I think it might have been 4-1, and then the Blue Jackets made it 4-2, which Chinakhov, great job. And I know, back to Provorov, I know that was just a completely well executed play from Jack Hughes. I mean, that was unbelievable. That's why he was the top 2 pick just a few seasons ago, and that's why, you know, he comes from a great bloodline of hockey players, be it that he has 2 siblings in the NHL. I know it was a perfectly executed play. It just feels like that moment that Provorov was just caught in opening night mode, right? Like, just, what are you doing, partner? Like, get your butt out there. Like, that's Jack Hughes. They're on the power play, and you're on the penalty kill against Jack Hughes. I can find somebody to go take a sprint at Jack Hughes on the power play. Maybe Andrew Peeke will do it. Andrew Peake's starting to play a little better, and that dude loves to block shots. So, hey, you could be losing your spot to him. And I know that they played on a line together tonight, but yeah, I've expected more out of Provi so far this year, and it is what it is. It is what it is with this team. I'm glad they lost, because I know ultimately that the losses are just good for me, and it's good for the team, because Macklin Celebrini is out there, and things aren't going to get better. I was going to talk about the schedule. I'm still going to do that. We'll talk about what the Blue Jackets are looking at heading into the next week. That's today that's the final segment today on Locked On Blue Jackets. Next, I want to tell you guys about FanDuel because right now, new customers get $150. I said that correctly. New customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 money line bet right now with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. It is not too late to kick off the NFL season because as the weather gets colder, the NFL offers are staying hot on FanDuel because you get $150 if your team wins. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. I was at the same time trying to watch the Lions beat the Broncos tonight. Doesn't matter. They beat the Broncos tonight. And I told you guys about that the last time I talked about this app. This app is super easy to use, and there is a wide range of betting options. You can switch sports. You don't have to keep it to just NFL. You can do a little NHL, do a little NBA. But they have spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. So do yourself a favor. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, the official partner of the NFL. All right, coming up next, the Blue Jackets will be playing the Sabres on Tuesday night. And Sabres, not looking so hot. Not looking so hot. 13, 16, and 3 on the year. 7th place in the Atlantic. 3-6-1 in their last 10. They have a goal differential of -15. Blue Jackets, for the record, have a goal differential of -21. So I don't know. So a pretty similar team as the Blue Jackets, I believe. As I'm talking about the Eric Robinson trade that just went down a couple weeks ago, I was going to look up his stats, but I will tell you that yesterday, the Coyotes beat the Sabres in Mullet Arena 2-0. And yeah, so Buffalo having some struggles on offense right now, which is kind of surprising for me on my end. And now as I'm looking up, I'm trying to see if they've had any injuries. But personally, I have always counted the Buffalo Sabres as a very, very high-scoring offense because if you look at them, I mean, Jeff Skinner, who's been over the last 5 to 6 years one of the most underrated offensive wingers in this game, plays for them. They have great defensemen in Owen Power, Rasmus Dahlin. They've invested heavily at their center position with Tage Thompson, Dylan Cousins. I don't really understand why they aren't playing so good. And Eric Robinson, by the way, has played 6 games already with the Buffalo Sabres this year and has amassed 3 points so far. So that's good for him. Hey, that's good for him. He's playing well, right? Like that's 3 points in 6 games. I mean, he had 1 point in 7 games with Columbus. So seems like, I don't know if he's getting more opportunity. No, he's only averaging 12 minutes of ice time a night with Buffalo, and he was getting 13 minutes ice time a night in Columbus this year. So averaging 1 less minute, playing almost twice as better. No, he is playing twice as better with Buffalo. So that's kind of how the Blue Jackets' luck has worked out lately. But that also just goes to show that Buffalo is losing games. Eric Robinson is scoring for them, and they're still losing games, which means some of the other guys aren't really getting it done. And the fact that Buffalo decided to go out and get a winger like Eric Robinson, I think also shows that something's going on. And I'm going to pull up Tage Thompson's stats because kind of curious where he's at. Looks like Casey Milstat is their point leader this year. He's got 25 points in 32 games. Tage Thompson, just 15 points in 23 games. So not really bad, but not really quite, I think, what Sabres fans had hoped for at this point in the season from him. So this should be an interesting game. I really think it should be an interesting game. I'm going to see what Devin Levi, their goalie's been doing, young buck. He is 6-4 on the year. And they've also been going with Pekka Luukkonen, excuse me. Pardon me. I don't really know Finnish all that well, which is where Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen is from, who is 6-7 on the year. So there you go. They've also pulled out Eric Comrie for a few games this year, and he is 1-5 on the season. So that's your look at the Buffalo Sabres. And I don't really know what to think of them other than, like I said, they must be underperforming. They must be underperforming badly, because I thought that they were going to be a team competing for a top 3 spot in the Atlantic this year, and you look and they're sitting in 7th place. So could be just a lot of inexperience on that team. I know Alex Tuck is one of their older dudes. I don't really know who else. I mean, I guess Jeff Skinner technically, but I feel like Jeff Skinner's been 26 for like 26 years now. He's 31, so I guess he is kind of an older guy now, or on the older side on that side of 30 rather. That's a nice way to say that, I guess. But I know it's coming for me one day too, that I will be on that side, and I will understand all the all the hurtful things that a young person says accidentally, because I feel like in my early part of my broadcasting career, I've said a million things, and I've heard a lot of people who are older than me come to me and say, "Hey, that was something that a young person would say," and I'm like, "Well, I'm sorry, I'm trying over here, man." Okay, that was off topic, but yeah, no, the Blue Jackets have opportunities this week to get things back on track, and I think the fact that they play, what is it? 6 games in the next they play 6 games in the next 14 days. That's pretty good. So that's every other night, really. I guess it's what they've been doing. That's kind of how the NHL season works. I was gonna get here and say they play, not that many games in a broad amount of time. It's still, the half the month of December left, but I guess 6 games is kind of a lot. And and like I said though, they're all on the East Coast, so the travel should be light. But they got the Sabres Tuesday this week. They got the Capitals Thursday this week at home. And then Saturday they play the Leafs again. That'll be fun to see what the Leafs bring. Maybe it won't be. I would be shocked if the Blue Jackets are able to beat the Leafs in back-to-back appearances against them, something that they don't really do against anybody. I thought tonight was a chance for them to beat the Devils in consecutive games against New Jersey, and they weren't able to do it. So don't have high hopes for them. Pascal Vincent, if you're listening to this, please start to get some more consistent line mates, or just some more consistent lines. I'm sorry, it's late. I waited till after not only the Blue Jackets game, but also after the Lions game to do this one. But Pascal Vincent, consistent line mates. Yarmo, look at making some trades, okay? At this point, anything. Keep Marchenko, keep Fantilli, keep David Jiricek, keep Chinikov, keep Vronkov, keep Ken Johnson, keep Zach Werenski. I love Zach Werenski as a defenseman. I think he's been the most consistent player this year. That might be it. That might be all I would keep with this team right now, and I will leave it at that, and I will talk to you guys tomorrow. We will have something for you. I don't know what it is yet. Let's do, we'll get in the Yarmo chair. Why not? Let's do what we've been saying we do. It's when Jay and I sit in the Yarmo chair and we talk about moves that we would make, things to make this team better. I think that could be a lot of fun. And yeah, I think we'll just do that once and for all. Like I've said, we do, because I probably have some things, as you guys have some things. I know many of you guys have been saying in our comments, hey, maybe the Blue Jackets should take a look at Craig Berube, who just got fired from the St. Louis Blues, who I think are a very bad team. And I don't think Craig Berube is to blame for why that team is playing so bad. And I think Craig Berube, after coaching the St. Louis Blues to a Stanley Cup a few years back, probably has a little bit more of coaching experience that might prove useful for this Blue Jackets team right now. Love Pascal Vincent. Love the fact that he's been just guiding the ship slowly along and just kind of not let it sink totally yet. There have been some rough spots, but for the most part, the ship is still moving. And maybe Craig Berube is the guy to bring this thing up to full speed, full capacity, and just let loose. I don't know. We'll do that. Maybe we'll talk about a little bit about good old Chief Berube. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. As always, thank you to the everydayers. If you're not already one of our everydayers, well, good news. Locked On Blue Jackets is free and available on all podcast platforms. We're free right here on YouTube. Hit subscribe if you're watching there. We're also free on the SiriusXM app. I am on Twitter at HaydenH971. Jay is on there at _JAKOBFORSTER. The show is on there at LO_Blue Jackets. And as always, if you have any comments, questions, or concerns, please direct those to us directly, lockedonbluejackets@gmail.com. Thank you once again for listening. And until tomorrow, make sure you stay locked on.